Blog Talk Radio.
I remember when I lost my mind. There was something so pleasant about that place. Even your emotions have an echo in so much space. And when you're out there without care, yeah, I was out of touch. But it wasn't because I didn't know enough. I just knew too much.
And I want to welcome each and every one of you to the show tonight as we end this week. And that's one of my most favorite songs in the entire world by Charles Barkley, called Crazy. And when you listen to the words, that would probably describe me, especially these days. But that being said, we have had a tremendous week, and we're going to close this week out with a bang with our guests. But before we get started, I just want to thank each and every one of you for continuing to support this show and to continuing to support each other and the guests that come on this show. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we are reaching heights that just, it makes me dizzy, makes my head spin. When I started this show, I never for one moment thought that we would be where we are at this moment in time, and the show not even 2 years old. We are talking with the show at 122,000, with all the podcasts, we're probably by now at 160,000, over 200 countries. In Australia, we love you. You are our biggest supporter here on Blog Talk Radio. Thank you so, so much. But, ladies and gentlemen, the thing is, indie authors, indie artists, people with a platform, people with a cause, have an opportunity to be heard in places where they might not be heard because this show offers it to them. And for those of you who are new to listening to the show, this show is not just heard on Blog Talk Radio. We are heard on iTunes and YouTube and FM.com and TuneIn Radio and iHeartRadio, Podcast.com, Podcast Garden, SoundCloud, Mixcloud, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, and this week, just this week, in the past couple of days, we're now on Reverb Nation. I am putting up all of the past shows on Reverb Nation, and I am also, with the permission of the artists that have been on my show, the musical artists, I am putting up one song of theirs on Reverb Nation. And you cannot download it. You cannot buy it. You can just listen to it. But I'm also attaching an external link so that you can go and purchase their music and find out about them. This is a perfect opportunity for these artists to be heard and to be taken care of, so to speak, on all in one place. I am also putting up snippets of audiobooks from some of my authors who have audiobooks. It's a one-stop shop, and it's under radio host and author Yvonne Mason on Reverb Nation. Check it out. Become a fan. Share it, because I am amazed. I am amazed at where we are headed. Now, we are booking shows into December, and there's two ways you can get on this show. One, you can come on as a guest, but you need to hurry, because November, December are short months because of the silly season. Two, you can place an ad for the show for $10 a month. I will run the ad for a month, and I normally run 4 shows a week. So that's 16 shows a month. I'm not in it to get rich. I am just in it to help you succeed. If I have to reschedule the shows, because most of you know that my husband is very, very ill, and I never know from one week to the next what's going on with him. But if I have to reschedule shows, your ad goes with the show. I do not cheat you out of any time that you have paid for. So contact me at offthechainradio@yahoo.com. You can either send me an MP3 or you can send it written down, and I'll read it on the show. And speaking of that, I want to start the show off with 2 ads with 2 ladies that have been with me for a long time, and they continue to support this show as sponsors. The first one is Cece Chamberlain. She's an absolute love. She has a podcast called Inside Your Life with Cece. This is a motivational, passionate conversation. She interviews people who are living their true purpose, and she doesn't care what purpose that is. If you're an author, a musician, a garbage collector, a boxer, a historian, she doesn't care. What she tries to do is to give you hope for a brighter day with her inspirational words. Download, subscribe, and listen as Cece guides you to pursue your dreams for you to live your best life. Her wonderful show is available on podcast.com, iTunes, Google Play, and everywhere podcasts are available. And this other person, and again, Australia, thank you, but because of this show and her ads on this show, her books hit #1 in your country, and I thank you for that. This is very humbling. The girl's name is Diane Motes, and she is an author. And she has a series of books, and it's called the Sam Holden series. The first one is Doggone, and the second one is called Dogfight. And it goes something like this. Wherever a helpless animal whimpers in the dark, and wherever the system fails to protect said animals, she'll be there, and she isn't giving up anytime soon, so you've been warned. When Sam Holden receives a tip about a brutal dog fighting ring, she embarks on some of her most dangerous acts of vigilantism yet. The monster known as the puppeteer circles Sam's world as she unknowingly circles his. While they chase each other, will Sam put those that she loves most in harm's way in order to break up this ring? With time running out and animals in need, the dangerous life Sam's created begins to eclipse any other life she could ever lead. Ladies and gentlemen, go to Amazon, look up Diane Mote, M-O-A-T, and download her books today because they are absolutely the best. Now that we've got the housekeeping out of the way, tonight's show, this young man has been waiting patiently for me for months. He is just... The people that wait so patiently to come on this show, I am just so humbled and so grateful and so appreciative of them, because some of them wait 3 and 4 months to get on the show. That's how fast we book up. And he is calling all the way from, as we hear on in the States say, across the pond. You know, it's the big pond. And it's late for him over there, and I am so appreciative that he agreed to come on at my time. He has no idea how much I appreciate him. But his name is S.P. Stevens, and he was born in London in 1972. Now, that in itself makes me quite envious, because y'all all know that I am a lover of London and Whitechapel and Spitalfields in the year 1888, and all y'all know why. He spent his formative years in the shadows of the dreaming spires of Oxford, I can't talk, before moving to Nottingham, where he graduated with a degree in English and media. Who would have guessed it? Preferring to follow a passion for music over writing, SP, or Shaun, he worked as a dance music producer in the 1990s. Now, inquiring minds want to know more about this. In 2001, he founded an internet marketing company, finding a home for his writing in the form of technical SEO and copywriting services. Unable to resist even more creative urges, in 2016, he finally decided to put fingers to keyboard, penning his debut fantasy novel, Bindcrafter. Shaun now lives in Brighton on the south coast of England, where he splits his time between fiction, internet marketing, coaching kids soccer, and writing about himself in the third person. I tend to think that maybe Shaun may have multiple personality disorder. Welcome, Shaun. How are you? Thank you so much, my friend, for spending a late hour with me.
Hi, Yvonne. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Well, you're amazing. To do all that you do and still find time to write, do you split yourself up in thirds or fourths or hundredths or whatever it is to get all of this done in one day?
I wish I could. That would be ideal. Generally, it involves a lot of late nights, so I'm pretty good with tonight, which is handy.
Works out well for both of us. Let's go back into your past. When you were a wee child, did you mean to take this path? In other words, did you know that you wanted to get a degree in English and media and then go into technical writing and then all this other stuff that you do? Or were you headed in another direction?
I'm one of these people that has never had a direction, I don't think. All through my life I've wanted to do different things, but they've always changed a long time. I'm not sure if that means I'm indecisive or whether I just my mind wanders quickly.
It means you're creative.
Yeah, that's the one thing that everything I've tended to do has had in common, that it has been creative things, I think.
What made you go into teaching dance? To me, because I love dance, I took dance and I loved it, but to teach it, that's got to be grueling.
Right, I didn't actually teach dance. I produced dance music, so that was more to do with writing music and working in studios, doing live gigs, that kind of thing.
Wow.
So
you just wrote the music that the choreographer put people's feet to.
It's more, when I say dance music, I should be more specific. It's more like, have you heard of house music or techno music, that kind of thing?
Yeah.
That's the kind of dance music rather than necessarily music for people to dance to. So, electronic, keyboard stuff, club music, that kind of stuff.
Wow. See, I'm telling you, you've got multiple personalities.
Sometimes now, I feel like I have, yes. Especially
you have
when I'm writing.
love. Me too. You have a love of something that I do, and when I went deep diving on you, I found it, and I skimmed over it because I was in the middle of something else. But you have a love of dragons.
Yeah, I think it's a badge of honor, isn't it, for a fantasy author? If you don't like dragons.
So. Now, I was reading something that you wrote on your blog about dragon bones being found. Did I read that right?
You did. A very controversial blog entry, I think. It was basically an attempt at flash fiction, which I'm quite sure whether everybody that read it was sure what it was about. But yeah, it was basically a kind of April Fool's, but not actually in April.
Well, I liked it. I think it should be real myself because I love dragons.
Yeah, I mean, who's to say that dragons haven't been flying around just because we haven't necessarily found the exact evidence. I think sometimes there's too much need.
Well, I don't think we've looked far enough. We'll just throw that out there. We haven't looked deep enough. There are dragon fossils out there. I mean, there's dinosaur fossils. Why not dragons?
Exactly. Dragons are pretty much dinosaurs anyway, in a lot of ways.
There you go. They just have wings.
Yep, and a bit of magic.
And they breathe fire.
See, you can't tell that from the dinosaur fossils. That's the problem.
Well, that's true. So why don't we just say? Yeah, we're putting it out there to all you archaeologists. Go find us some dragon fossils, because if there's dinosaur fossils, they're dragon fossils. I mean, there's enough dragons in books. Why not? I mean, George R. Martin has the Queen of Dragons, the mother of all dragons. So why not?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's, you could create an argument for the creation of fire from methane inside an animal, and you've got pterodactyls. So I mean, we're pretty much there.
See, there's your next fiction.
Yep. I'll have to do a part 2 to the blog post.
Now, for those that don't understand what copyright services are, because I don't know if you, and I know that copywriting and trademarking are two different things, and I don't know if you've noticed the stupidity that has started going on in the indie world about trademarking words, which these authors don't understand that words are just words, and that the words are not their brand, that they are the brand. But that being said, when you offer a copyright service to someone, what are you offering? Because a lot of people don't know what that is.
Well, in internet marketing terms, copywriting is any kind of writing which promotes a business or idea. So it's kind of separate from copyright, as in protecting your intellectual property, which I do know some stuff about. But the copywriting that we've done is basically anything that gets published out on the internet.
So your client sends you his, let's call it a CRV, for lack of a better term at this point, and you draw up the paperwork and stamp copyrighted by Joe Schmo. This belongs to him. Don't try to steal it, because if you do, then you'll go to jail. And you send him his copy, and the other copy goes where?
Well, that's not really what I do. If I'm really honest, I don't really deal with copywriting, as in protecting trademarks and stuff. Although I have come across that in my work. The stuff we do is more content creation, I guess. If that makes more sense.
Yep, it does. Just because people need to know about Shaun Stevens and all the pies that his little fingers are in. As in, you also, and you and I were talking before the show, that you do internet marketing, and in this business, if we don't make the internet our friends, and if we don't market ourselves, not so much our product, because the product, like I said, is not our brand. We're the brand. If we don't market ourselves, we might as well not even put pen to paper, because the book's going to go nowhere, correct?
Absolutely correct. Which is one of the kind of realizations I got, I think, after about a year of writing, was that I needed to create some kind of not a brand necessarily, but open myself up to, people knowing about me as an author, which was quite a strange experience, I have to say.
Because we're not used to talking about ourselves. Like you say, you write about yourself in third person. We have to take ourselves personally out of the equation and pretend like we're not who we are, and put the person, the face of our brand, which is us, out there as somebody without any emotion being put into it. Joe Schmo. You have to write in third person, because if you don't put yourself out there, Shaun, and I know that you've seen this, people aren't going to buy your book just because you're a nice guy, because they don't know who Shaun Stevens is.
Yeah, totally agree. I try every day to, create new friends on Twitter and Facebook and stuff, and I write stuff for the website, do things like this. The end point for me is that I love the universe that I've created. I know it sounds a bit strange, but I just like other people to, be able to experience that if they want to.
Years ago, and I don't know if it's still done now or not, but years ago, there was groups of people that would go on the internet, and this was, a friend of mine did it way back when you had to type in DOS, but they created the fantasy worlds on the internet, and they opened it up for people to read, and each person within the group had their own character, and they built on that character, and they built the scenes, and because of that, a lot of books came out of those fantasy worlds on the internet.
Yeah, would that have been the 80s, that kind of time?
Yeah.
90s? Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of sort of things were created on forums and really strange architecture back then compared to what we have now.
Really strange. I am going to run a couple ads right quick, and then I want to talk about, on your blog, you had a article about cheats for writing. Yep. And for newbies that are just starting out, I would find that very informative. So if you'll let me run these 3 ads right quick, then we will come back and talk about them, so that we can educate some of these people, as we say in the South. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Off the Chain. I'm your host, Yvonne Mason, with my guest author, Shaun Stevens. Also, he writes under S.P. Stevens, S-T-E-V-N-E. I can't talk. S-T-E-V-E-N-S. And no, y'all can't go now. You've got to wait, because you don't know what he writes about. So hold on, and we'll be right back.
Do you have cougars on your porch swing? Are horses your new best friend? Do your nicest shoes get buried knee-deep in snow as your toes turn blue? Are you bothered by wolves at your woodpile? No, not that kind of wolf. Join wildlife artist and author Nancy Quinn and her family as they discover an exciting new life in Go West, Young Woman, a true Montana adventure. Available online and in bookstores. Or visit QuinnWildlifeArt.com for a personalized signed copy. Critics agree, it's a hoot.
Hi, this is Winona
and Jade inviting you to join us
and our wonderful guests on the And I Thought Women's Cave podcast
on Blog Talk Radio to learn more about our books, the And I Thought series, and
the Misfit Guides. They're available on Amazon.com and BarnesandNobles.com.
Or just to see what your ladies are up to, you can find all of that out on www.andwethought.com.
So peace and love from Winona
and Jade and our books. You so silly. You silly. Remember, did you write that? That's funny.
Remember to visit us at andwethought.com.
The year, 1888. The place, London's East End. Dead and mutilated bodies are popping up all over, from Stamford to Whitechapel. Jack the Ripper is leaving his mark, and the city's on edge. Yvonne Mason is back with a tale of murder and millinery. The Rhodes Hat Factory is booming while the body count rises. Why now? How are these hats connected? Has the Hatter gone mad? Mad Hatter, from Yvonne Mason. Available now on Amazon.com.
And we are back, and yes, that was a piece of shameless promotion for one of my books. This is Off the Chain. I'm your host, Yvonne Mason, with my guest author, Shaun Stevens, who writes under S.P. Stevens. Okay, Shaun, on your blog, you wrote Cheats for Writing. Now, I've been in this business for a minute or so, and even some of the books that I have read from authors from what we call the Big Six, it could have used some of your cheats for writing, because some of those books were like pulling teeth. I think I would rather have had Snakebite, because they were so boring. How do you keep a book from being boring? How do you cheat to make it better?
Okay, that's a big question. I think the essential thing with books, well, fiction, is that it's the characters that matter more than anything else. Everything comes back to that and people's relationship with the characters. If you can make the characters interesting, the book is interesting. I don't know if that was on the blog. I haven't got it in front of me.
I will see if I can pull it up, because the whole thing resonated with me when I was reading it. And what you said made a lot of sense, because sometimes it's not the dialogue, it's the way the dialogue is written.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a few mantras that I kind of kick around in my head all the time. One of my favourites is write less action and more drama. So very often, if people think their story's slow, or other people do, they put it down not having enough action. But tension comes from drama, really. So even the smallest things can create that drama. Just of tension between two characters, or is the guy going to slip on the banana skin? If you do it right.
One of the things you put is unexpected events, like getting a fly in your soup, or to find out your house is about to be demolished by your local council. That's not something that one would expect in the story. It's just like an afterthought within the story, but it jolts your reading audience to, let me get back. What happened?
Yeah, I mean, unexpected events are the basis of all fiction, I think, really, which comes back to fiction is all about conflict, and conflict normally does come from unexpected events, I would say.
Yep. One of the best movies I ever saw, I couldn't figure out what the ending was going to be. And usually I can figure out who done it about halfway through. But one that can hold my attention that long without me figuring it out, and then being completely wrong. If I have figured it out, I'm completely wrong. To me, that is very well written.
Yeah, I mean, you could class that another tip. Just a twist. Most good stories have some kind of twist in them.
Comes right out of nowhere. And
yeah,
that
totally.
That really, it pisses me off. I'm supposed to be able to figure it out. And another thing that you talk about is the exclamation point. People want to write with exclamation points. You don't need them. Not that often. No,
I mean, they should never, ever be outside dialogue, in my opinion. And what you find is if you go through, because in the first draft, I'll admit, I have, 800 exclamation marks if I do a search in my Word document. But when I go back through on the revision and I actually take them out, it's amazing just how much more power the sentences have without them. And, I have another kind of mantra, which is if you could put a tag on the end of each saying "he exclaimed," then you're allowed to have one, but otherwise, don't have them.
Yeah, because they're not necessary. Because by the character's action, you should understand it is an she shouted, or she screamed, or she cried loudly, or he cursed. I mean, that's an explanation within itself.
Yeah, I mean there are exceptions as well, which is I think if you just have like a one-line bit of dialogue where someone's shouting someone's name or something, you'd put one at the end of that just so that it's a shout. But they're one of the most overused things, and obviously I've been writing for a couple of years now, and they were the bane of my life for a good 6 months.
The bane of your existence. And I also found out something amazing about you that the world needs to know, because I'm sure that the world does not know yet, but we're going to expose the world to it. And that is, ladies and gentlemen, he also writes poetry. And I've never heard it called this before, but it's Vogan. What in the world is Vogan poetry?
Okay, well, Vogan poetry is a nod to the great Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Have you heard of that?
No.
Douglas Adams, he's not with us anymore, but he's one of my favorite British authors. He wrote a series of books called The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, about this guy that basically wakes up. The council are about to demolish his house, but what he doesn't know is that there's a spacecraft orbiting the Earth about to demolish the Earth. There's loads of amazingly well done lines drawn between bureaucracy and modern society and strange sci-fi events. But I mean, he was a genius, and if anyone hasn't read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, they really should, and don't watch the films.
And it sounds like that he writes, well, if you think it could get worse, look up, it just did.
Yeah, and Vogon poetry, the aliens that come to demolish the Earth are Vogons, and their captain of their spacecraft likes to read terrible
it doesn't
poetry.
matter much if your house is getting demolished, because the whole world's going to be demolished anyway.
Exactly. And well, yeah, I won't say that because it would be a spoiler, but there's some great references to like council planning in the intergalactic bypass department or something.
Well, I want to read, with your permission, this piece of poetry that you wrote, because it is so true. It just smacked me upside the head when I was reading it earlier today. It's an amazing piece of poetry. So if you don't mind, I would love to read it.
Okay, I don't know where you've got this from, so if it's not mine or something, I'll tell you afterwards.
About the world.
Okay, go for it.
There are more good people than bad. Avoid trouble, don't be sad. The world is a wondrous place, if a dark and disturbing race, so always keep a smiling face. Apart from one person, there's always someone worse than you. So have fun when you can before you fall in your imagination, the best playground of all.
Yep, I hold my hands up. It's one of mine.
I love it because it's so true. It is a simplistic view of the world that no matter how bad it gets, we're always free within our own mind.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lesson that you learn. Definitely being a writer, it applies to everybody. And the imagination is the most powerful place to be, really. That's why books are so good, because they give you that space that films and other kinds of entertainment don't.
I love that piece of work. It is absolutely wonderful.
Thanks, Yvonne. I'll try and write more. I do put the odd little bit on Twitter.
Please do. I think you should publish a book of your poetry.
Sure. Okay. Well, my book publishing schedule is quite busy.
I'll just whip a few out and put it in book form. Speaking of books, now, ladies and gentlemen, he's got a book out. The second one is coming out soon. But this one, the one that's out, is called Bindcrafter, Song of Sons.
Okay. Can I just stop you there, Yvonne? Because it's not actually out yet.
This one's not out yet?
That one's not out yet. That one is in revision at the moment. And I've got a novella which is coming out, I guarantee, by July. But at the moment, that is all I have, I'm afraid.
Don't apologize, because you're coming back. But we're going to whet their appetites anyway. Because, ladies and gentlemen, you have to go and friend him on Facebook. So, because my note says release date March 2018. I think he just wanted to tease me because it's not out yet. But that being said, this is what it's about. When there's no one left to care about, what is there left to hope for? I like that tagline. The nation of Sindal has long dominated the Fairlands. Its armies, Fairylands, I can't talk. Its armies are undefeated, its rulers undisputed, and its control is total, or rather it was. Are the gods angry? Is the science broken? Yin has more important things to worry his young mind. As a refugee, he set for assignment to the Forge, the perfect place for the scrags and murderers to do him in. There's always escape in the Book of Talents, and tales of men collapsing mountains and machines that control minds. But when his family is torn apart, he must embrace reality and revive a forgotten magic to bring down his vile oppressors. Easier said than done when reality would prefer to melt away. Immerse yourself in a world of dark, forgotten magic, intrigue, adventure, love, and loss in this epic fantasy debut from J.P. Stevens, but keep a candle burning and a hand on your blade. Okay. Where in the world, in the recesses of your mind, did this come from?
Well, I started writing. It just kind of poured out, really. It was about just over 2 years ago. I decided it was time to actually try and write something proper, if you like. So I sat down, started writing, and fell in love with the process and the characters and the universe, and everything just expanded from a seed of just the main character's name and a scene.
And this world is of course it's good and it's evil and it's dark and it's light. Does it have enough room to grow and expand and change with the second book?
Yeah, I've got it's a 3-book series which I've got mapped out in rough outline. So even each book is very much self-contained and a pretty epic kind of chapter of what goes on in the world. But there's a bigger arc, which at the moment should be 3 books. Although sometimes these things can go into 4. I think, but I wouldn't really want to write more than 4. Although there's options for doing prequels and that kind of thing too. So it's massive. Every time I sit down to write, the world grows in some random way. My one of my main battles is stopping the world growing so much that I can't get it on paper.
Where did you get the title Bindcrafter? What? I know there's a significance for it. What is the significance?
The significance is that there's an affliction which besets the universe or the world. The characters are. It's not Earth. It's an imagined world, and this affliction requires a cure, which is referred to in the book as binding, which basically protects people from the effects of this affliction. The people that practice the art of binding are called Bindcrafters, so that's where Bindcrafter comes from.
Interesting. Very interesting. Yep. Now, this young man, it says that he is a refugee, so this is really not his home. He just wound up there for some reason?
Yeah, his home is basically war-torn. So his family escaped to Sendal, which is like the big dominant nation of the universe at the moment.
So how did he wind up where he is?
Well, there's a lot of backstory. As you can imagine, the amount of backstory that comes out every day for the last 2 years has been extreme. But basically, they escaped from the war. His mother has got. She's actually from the nation that they go to. So they get citizenship due to her. And there's other things that are going on which I can't possibly divulge.
Of course not. That would be giving away the story.
But yeah, there's other factors at play which kind of push them into the geography.
What made you decide to write fantasy?
Well, fantasy is by far my favorite type of read, so it just made sense, I guess. And I think if I'd done any other genre, I would have just got sick of it by now. Because I didn't realize when I started just what a mammoth project writing is really of any description. It's just so much more to it than you think when you start out. So the fact that it's fantasy and that I love fantasy means that I get excited every time I go to write. So I can't think of having had writer's block at all. For instance, you struggle with certain concepts and plotting and that kind of thing, but I've always just wanted to get stuck in even more.
Well, let me ask you this: it's hard enough for me to put together a storyline, a historical novel, much less a 3-part series novel. And then you add the layer of fantasy on top of it. How in the world, A, do you come up with the names of the places, the people, and the things? B, how do you keep up with all the working parts of a fantasy story? Because it's anything that your mind wants it to be. How do you keep up with all of that? Would drive me crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I use certain software packages. So I use YWriter. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's Scrivener.
I hate Scrivener. I never could figure that one out. So I said, drop this. I'm not dealing with it.
Yeah, but it's got similar features in organization. So you can, have like lists of characters and you can put in their details and that kind of thing. or items or places. So it's kind of like a database of all the information needed for the story. So I use that, and then I've got, several notebooks of handwritten, lots of A4 printed sheets. I have folders of notes, and some I have like Excel stuff for the magic, because you have so many different elements of the magic to consider each time it comes into play. So yeah, it's a huge undertaking, and I don't know why I started off writing epic fantasy when I hadn't written anything before. I should have done a thriller or something.
No, I think you did actually very well, because if you're going to jump into the tsunami of the writing world, don't go in the kiddie pool. Jump into the deep end and keep swimming like you know what the hell you're doing.
Yeah, sometimes it feels like you're trying to tread water.
Yes. But if one is serious about writing, and one really wants to make a difference in their own self and in their own world, then I agree. One must write A, what one knows, B, what one enjoys, and C, what one reads on a daily basis. You already had a working knowledge of fantasy, because that is the genre you love to read, and you know that anything is possible in fantasy. It's your world. You can make it do whatever you want to.
Yeah, I mean, that is one of the joys, although it can also be a curse sometimes, because I like to think of it as having like a reality cake that you start off with at the beginning of your story, and you can only sort of go you can only go so far away from reality before people stop buying it, if you like. So I think of it like a cake. So if I have a really bizarre thing happen, that's like a slice of my cake's gone. I can only use up a certain amount, but yeah, the flexibility and just the although you can get lazy as well and think,
all
okay,
right,
well,
let's step back into the literary world. I'm going to take you back to years and years and years ago, in a galaxy far, far away, when I was a young girl. Even before I was a teenager, I was 10, 11, 12 years old, and I was reading Edgar Rice Burroughs.
Yeah.
Now, anybody that has read Edgar Rice Burroughs in that time period would say there's no way that any of this could happen. Same thing with George Orwell, 1984. I read 1984, and then right after it was published. I mean, this was in the 60s, 70s, and I'm going, okay, I don't see it happening, but guess what? It is. So fantasy is not that far away from reality.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's sci-fi and fantasy, both kind of, where sci-fi predicts the future in a way, fantasy reflects it, if that makes sense.
Good point. Yes, it makes perfect sense. Because in those of us that say, well, no, I never fantasize, I'm going to tell you what, they lie. Because we all fantasize.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
to be able to put it to paper, I bow to you, my friend, because my worlds are too real. I can't get it on paper.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes you can cheat by basing things on reality and then just twisting them a bit. Some of my favourite fantasy is the kind of stuff that's very close to the real world, but then it's slightly twisted. Sort of things like Neil Gaiman, those kind of authors.
Mhm.
And to an extent, you could almost include Harry Potter in that kind of thing, from the point of view that it's a real world, but then there's this other kind of layer to it. So it's easier to kind of work in that scenario sometimes, but unfortunately I didn't do that either. So I made it even harder.
You just went. You didn't step into a tsunami. You just, I don't know what you just went on into the deep end of the ocean to 20,000 leagues under the sea and said, okay, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it whole hog. And here we are with Bindcrafter, Song of Suns, SUNS, and it's not out yet, but it's going to be very soon.
This year, that's all I can promise. I sent it to betas and that kind of thing. I had sort of several people read it, and although they said they enjoyed it, it came back as a 7 out of 10, and I was just like, I'm just not happy. So there were loads of things I needed to fix, and it was kind of like finding the core of the story, I guess, which I think I now have done, and I'm about halfway through the revision, so it's coming on well.
So they wanted more meat in the story?
There was a whole variety of different things. One of the things that stuck in my gut a bit was the main character wasn't coming across as one of their favourite characters. Those kind of issues, and the trouble is there's a lot of characters. There's like 150 characters or something. I don't even start because I know that's terrible.
Have they not read George R.R. Martin?
Well,
I have to have a scorecard to keep up with all of his characters.
Yeah, I mean that is impossible to keep up with even for me.
But I love his books. I get lost in his books. I stay up all night reading his books, and I'm ready to send the flying monkeys after him if he doesn't finish this last book because he left us hanging.
I know, and we've got Game of Thrones, one more series to come, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's my drug of choice, and it's going to be gone. The book's not out. I just hate when that happens. Don't be George R.R. Martin, Shaun. Get your book out.
Oh, I'm certainly in no. Go on.
We've whetted their appetites, now you've got to get the book out.
Yeah, well, like I say, the prequel will be out in a couple of weeks, so that will give you an into the Minecraft universe. It's got some of the elements of the magic and that kind of thing. That came about just because it took so long to go through the beta process with the book, which again wasn't something I was expecting, but it was a good 3 months that I just got sick of waiting and decided to write the prequel. So I'm glad I did that because that is something that I've actually finished, and I'm just waiting for the cover art, and that'll be out imminently. So hopefully people might pick that up.
And what is the name of the prequel?
The prequel is called Ranker's Charge. That's Ranker as in a soldier. I don't know if that was obvious. And that is, I best describe it as it's set down a mine, and it's like who's going to die first or last. It's just a nice little adventure, hopefully, for people.
Okay, so are you going to do a big explosion so that people will know it's out on your Facebook page and on your Twitter and on your blog and?
Yeah, as soon as I've got the cover art out, I'll be putting it all over Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, that kind of thing, and I will be giving away art copies and free stuff. So if people wanted to sign up at my website to my newsletter, they can do that, and they'll get the option, which is spstevens.com/news.
Now, when you get your cover art and you start getting ready to promote this thing, post it on my page so that I can blow it out all over my social media.
That would be amazing, Yvonne. I would definitely do that.
Because I've got, good heavens, let's see, how many sites have I got on Facebook? I've got 5 or 6, plus, like I told you before the show, my Facebook page integrates with my Twitter feed, and then tonight's show is going to go up on Reverb Nation. I can take the book cover and I can put it up on Reverb Nation as a photo.
that would be great. Yeah, and the art was looking really good the last time I spoke to the guy. So I think it will look quite pretty.
Tell him to stop sitting on his thumbs and get it done so that we can get you out there, my dear, because this baby needs to be hatched. Come on now. Don't be a George R. Martin.
Oh, George R. Martin, he's had a lot more out than me, so I'm not going to start criticizing any of these authors. I mean, it does get to me. There's a few authors that take ages to write the sequels, and people moan on at them on social media, having
what they
commented from the other.
What they don't understand is if you don't stay out there, pretty soon you become a non-entity. They go, George who? Oh, I read him once. And they've forgotten what they've read, so when the new book comes out, they're not even interested. In my case, though, I would buy it just because I want to know what happened to the mother of all dragons.
Yeah, I'm totally down with all of that, marketing and serious stuff and that kind of thing. I'll probably, really push the prequel when the novel's ready to go, so that people don't forget it.
Well, now you've told folks about your website. Where can they find you on Twitter and Facebook?
Okay, Twitter and Facebook. You can find me at SP Stevens Writer. Instagram, you can find me at s.p.stevens. And the website spstevens.com. And that's Stevens with a V.
And then on Facebook, you're listed as Shaun Stevens, correct?
Yeah, although that's my personal profile. I've got a author profile too, which is SP Stevens Writer. That's where I put all my book stuff.
So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. And Shaun, you're not going to believe it, but we are getting to the end of our hour. And when the show goes dark, please don't hang up because I've got some instructions for you. But in the meantime, I want to thank you again so much for spending an hour with me at this late hour in England. You are a trooper, and I appreciate you so much. And get your book out because I will help you promote it. I believe in this so much. So, ladies and gentlemen, you are quite welcome, my friend. Ladies and gentlemen, y'all all know that at the end of every show there's a couple of things that I say. And as we end this week, I want you to really take this stuff and run with it because I live by it. It's very important to me. And that is, we're all on a journey, and none of us know what the other's journey is. And we take this journey alone more times than not. So when you're out and about and you see someone that may not be as kind or as happy as you think they ought to be, understand that they may be having a bad day. So while they will forget your name and they'll forget what you look like, they will never, ever, ever forget how you make them feel. So never fail to say thank you to someone or please or smile at them or tell them they have a beautiful smile even if they haven't seen it. Or find something about them to compliment them on because you don't know you may be saving someone's life. And in this day and age where suicides are at epidemic proportions, people are committing suicide like kids in a candy store stealing candy, and they don't realize that we only go around once, and once that life is gone, they've ripped the fabric of our future because we don't know what great things they might have done. So when you're out and about, remember how you made them feel. And if you want to achieve greatness, ladies and gentlemen, please, please, please stop asking permission because nobody's going to give it to you. More times than not, they have allowed someone to destroy their dreams even without their permission. And so they don't think they're ever going to go any further, and they just want to stay in that rabbit hole, and they want you to stay with them. Don't be that person. Fulfill your dream and achieve greatness no matter what it is. And with that being said, I want to say join us again Wednesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time when we start a brand new week, ladies and gentlemen, and it is going to be fun-filled and exciting just like this one has. I want to thank my guest, S.P. Stevens, for staying up late with us for an hour. And until Wednesday night, 8 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time, This is Off the Chain with your host, Yvonne Mason, and my guest, S.P. Stevens, saying good evening. Okay, Shaun, we're now in the archive part of the show because it's offline. So what we will do is when we hang up, I will archive the show, and then I will put it up on my Facebook page and tag you in it. That is my gift to you.
Thank you very much.
It gets better. Tomorrow, I put it up on all the podcasts, and I put the link up on my page, and I tag you in it. Take all of that information and just blow it out there to help promote yourself and your book.
Yep, I will do. I'll stick it on all the channels.
Yeah, because you understand about internet marketing.
I do.
And I want you to come back after the first of the year because I know you'll be working on yet another wonderful book in this series. And we can talk more about the characters and how they've been grown and what's going on with them and where you are.
That would be brilliant.
Okay. Thank you, my dear.
Awesome.
Now go and get some sleep.
Okay, I will do. Thanks for having me on the show, Yvonne.
Thank you for spending this hour with me. It's a great sacrifice. I really, really appreciate it.
Cheers, then.
Cheers, darling. Bye-bye.
Bye.